All right, all right. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is for you too. This is Pastor Dow. Um, how do I answer this question right here? The question comes to me is, Pastor Dow, can you give us advice on home building? And they're talking about a literal physical home. Well, I tell people all the time, if you listen to me, that's if you listen to me. And I don't want to. I'm the type of person I really don't. I really do not like repeating and echoing things that I've said 1,000 times over the years, and I do understand that a lot of you who are listening to me now are brand new in this thing and have no clue or idea who I am as a man, a person, or have any idea how I function or live in life. And of course, when you come over here, you meet me and you assume that I'm like everybody else. And so, you approach me the same way. And then when I do not respond the way that you think that I ought to respond, because you're accustomed to people responding a certain way, the intelligent people will consider what I say. That's what they normally do. And they'll weigh what I said. And it may take a little time, but they usually will ponder what I said and they'll think about it. And then I'll come back a little bit later on for more wisdom. The foolish, they get offended, get mad, and I have all these different types of superlatives that are said to me on a continual basis, just disparaging comments, the whole 9 yards, and I've not harmed anyone. But, somebody need to teach us that we need to be very careful how we approach people. That's why I choose to follow, the biblical perspective and the scriptural viewpoint. I honor all men. And I try to make sure that I do everything that I can to honor all men. And the only time that many of you equate me being dishonorable is when you see me responding or reacting based on how someone approached me. You approach me the wrong way. I want you all to understand from the very beginning, I am not a Christian. So I do not believe in Christian values. I do not believe in the Christian religion. I do not believe in a Christian perspective or point of view or viewpoint. And I know even at that, I'm up against a gauntlet to get people to try to understand what I'm saying. Nevertheless, you're here because you want to know about the title of the video, the heading of it. My shirt pretty much tells you what I am. And if you can understand that perspective, which is what the Bible says, and I know that many of you don't understand. And just to do a word study. See how many times the word Hebrew or the word Israelite is in the Bible as opposed to Christian. And see if you can find the word Christian or Christianity or Christians in the Old Covenant or even the Gospels. See if it's in there. And then try to figure out what's happened. So we're here because somebody asked me the question, and I had to lay that foundation, that groundwork about home building. What advice do I have about building a home, building a house physically? Well, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to make this video right here, and I'm going to call it home building so that I will have a simple reference for people to go to whenever they're coming over to my channel, or if they ask me this question, I can just simply give them this video. I have to start off by trying to give understanding of the way that we function and do things, because I understand that there are many different diversities of mindsets. Therefore, there are many different diversities of opinions, and therefore many people, based on their level of self-education or education, is going to determine how they approach you. But here it is. Listen to me very closely. It's obvious that some time ago I bought pretty much close to 40 acres of land. And before I purchased that 40 acres of land, my wife, just like anybody else, what does people want when they live in this country? Everybody wants a house or a home, physical, a place that they can call their own. As a young man in my mid-20s, I had trouble. I had some very serious trouble because I just could not square, even though I was renting, I could not square paying $800 to $1,500 a month, somewhere in that range, for a house for 30 years or 20 years or 15 years. I started doing the math, and I just could not wrap my head around it. And the more I thought about it, my personal opinion, so don't get offended. I'm not judging you. I want you to understand my personal opinion. To me, it was nonsensical. It just simply did not make any sense whatsoever at all. And mind you, I'm a soldier. I don't know how to build no house. I didn't even know how to nail a 2x4 together. So I was renting, and just like anybody else, I started saving money. And so the first step that I come to the conclusion is if I went the conventional way, the way that the world says, and go out here and pay everybody to go do all the work for me, that's pretty much what the majority of the house is tied up in. It's tied up into paying for the labor to construct the house. So I figured, I can initially cut those costs if I learn how to do it myself. Now, sure, a rational thinking person will say, now, wait a minute, Pastor. You don't even know how to nail a 2x4 together. How in the world are you going to build a house? Well, I told you, I've always thought differently. I didn't run with the crowd. I've always been my own man. I'm not so easily influenced by the in crowd. I grew up just like anybody else. Not like everybody didn't grow up. I grew up in what a lot of people call the hood, where drugs, cocaine, marijuana, crack, it was around on a daily basis. And I saw many of my peers that they just loved it. They just loved doing this stuff. They'd offer it to me many times, but I just would not accept. I wouldn't do it because I was my own man. I would look at them, see what it would do to them. They say they're having a good time. And I come to my own conclusion just by sitting and watching them. I didn't want to be a part of that good time. So from a very young age, I have not been influenced by a lot of things. That doesn't mean that myself as a man is a perfect individual, but I'm going on to perfection. So let me get back to the house over here. So anyway, I figured, first of all, the first step is buy a piece of land and get it paid for. If you buy a piece of land, you get it paid for. That's the first step, because once you acquire a piece of land, then you're a little bit more motivated about going forward. So as I begin to brainstorm, now mind you, I am in my mid to upper 20s thinking like this. Because the conventional way is to do like everybody else. They'll go down to the bank or the mortgage company or a loan company and pay for this house and just get saddled with debt. And debt just something that has always troubled me. Even if it's as little as $5,000 and $10,000, it just troubles me. I feel like I'm in some type of chains and shackles, and that's the reason why I try to pay everything off that we need to acquire as fast as possible. Because I learned later that the borrower is the servant to the lender, and I did not want to serve this system and be saddled up for 30-something years. So, acquire a piece of land, whatever it is to your liking and taking or whatever at all, and whatever it may be. Once I figured that out, I said, what I could do is I could actually just go out there and just start, putting building materials out there. As I work, I get paid. I can just start amassing building materials, or either I could put money back in a savings account. Now, most people are not disciplined enough to do that. Listen to me very close. Here in America, with our instant gratification spirit, to where we want everything and we wanted it yesterday, most people do not have the discipline, the intestinal fortitude, the integrity to actually be able to hold off their wants, needs, or lust. Most people, that's what this credit does. Credit is a bad thing. It really truly is. But that's what the American lifestyle is taught us, and everybody's doing it. So why not do it ourselves? And we fall into the same old trap and loophole We become servants. It's like, when you go out and get an education, they call higher education. Most people do not obtain scholarships or grants. And so they saddle themselves with more debt. And for some reason, some way, somehow, we love owing people. I don't understand it, especially people who are not going to show you any mercy. Because, in this brainstorming, I thought, what if I paid for this house 15, 20 years, and all of a sudden something happens to me where I can't work anymore? And they told me through their deceiving terms, got me believing that I actually own the home. That's like many of you people, they got you thinking that you actually built the home. You hear people who buying these houses. Well, we built our home. We built our home. Wait a minute, you didn't do nothing on that home. Somebody else built it and you're paying for it. But that's the type of psychology that they put in our minds. And then we go and show everybody what we so-called build as if we've been instrumental in building something. I mean, it's just utterly amazing what they've done to us. So you go to college, you get saddled with debt, and they pass laws that you can't declare bankruptcy on. And why in the world? How do I continue to keep getting off? I guess because it's hard for me to actually just go into this subject without providing understanding of the why and the how. But anyway, you know what I'm saying. But I just couldn't think, it just wasn't square. So then, the truth is, I've actually been paying rent the same way I would in an apartment complex, even though somebody else getting the money. But same thing with a home. You're paying rent. They got you believe you're owning a home. But anytime something could happen, and I'm not saying we could just go on hypotheticals, but anytime something could happen, all that money that you paid into this home that you allegedly so-called home, it goes to the bank. And when you can no longer meet the terms of that contract and the conditions of that contract, the bank still has the home, the bank still has the land, and not only that, they even have collateral from whatever else that you have actually signed on to. And if you can't meet the terms of that condition, then they destroy your credit to make sure you can never buy a home again. So I begin to think, the rational man that I am. I'm not the most intelligent man in the earth, but I do accredit myself, or at least give myself some credit to actually thinking and making sound and wise decisions. So I just couldn't square it because the way I saw it was whether you are renting or whether you are paying a mortgage, either way it goes, you're paying it to someone else. It's just that renting, you do not have the guarantee, nor do you have the guarantee even in a mortgage. Because all you do is just stop paying the taxes, and next thing you know, your home is up for sale on a tax lien sale. So, the system has just got us all jacked up. But either way it goes, you're paying something. So I thought, okay, buy the land, get it paid for. And of course, it's not much to pay taxes on a piece of land. It depends on where you live. That's why I say get out in the country, because the further you get out, the less burdensome the tax bill is per year. And so I started thinking about building, getting building materials. So I started acquiring books. I can go over here on this shelf right here. I'll give you an example. Hold on a second. And what I usually say to one person, I usually say it to all. I really, truly do. I can go on all day long about giving advice. But, a wise man or a wise woman, they are someone who would consider, what you say. I don't believe in giving advice about something that I'm not doing myself. So, and mind you, I just grabbed a handful of books. Look at this. And so usually my first advice is to tell people, number one, go out and buy some books where you can learn how to build. Look at this, man. These things are heavy too. All right, look at these books right here. Measuring, Marking, and Layout, a builder's guide. Study them. Read them. And let me put some of these things down. But I just wanted to show you some of the books that I have here. You know what I mean? Tile. How to complete tile. Concrete and foundation work. And like I said, I could continue to keep going on and on and on. Patios. Tiny houses. Building sheds. You will learn something out of every single one of these things. I'm serious. Crown molding. And of course, the first one I showed you is pretty much a book on actual building in itself. I don't know if I showed it. I'm masonry. So, while me not knowing how to do anything, the first step was to educate myself. Now, I'm sure you can go out and pay a bunch of money for a bunch of classes and get a piece of paper, a certificate, and it probably make you feel better. But I figured I would invest in myself, and I probably have over the years, I probably have amassed, I don't know, maybe $1,200-$1,300 worth of building books. Somebody said, wow, that's a lot of money. It ain't no more money than what it would be when you paying for an education for somebody to teach you, when all you have to do is make yourself available. Go through the pain. So the advice that I give to one, I give to all. And that's the reason why a lot of people today, they cannot square. Everybody go, well, I just can't build. And I can't do this. And I can't. And I've tried. Continue to keep going until you succeed. The old saying is try, and try again, and stop with your sorry excuse making. Because if that is all that you're able and capable of producing, I told you I was a soldier. I didn't know how to nail a 2x4 together, lay a block, do any framing or any decking or squaring of a building. I did not know how to build custom cabinets. I didn't know how to do any of this stuff whatsoever at all. I can do basic wiring, but I'm nowhere near the electrician that Elder Doug and Brother James are. And of course, and then later on, what I did was I started educating myself, taking money, putting it back, buying building materials. I would see people out working, whether they be laying blocks on a foundation or framing a home, and I would call my wife and tell her I won't be home till about 9 o'clock, maybe 10 o'clock or 8 o'clock. It depends on what it is, because I will stop by these places, look at these people building, and I will make myself available. And they said, I would ask them, can I work for y'all? And they said, well, we're not hiring nobody. I said, I don't want to be hired. I just want to work with y'all so I can learn. Sure, come on up. I mean, anybody would love to have somebody, if you give them the understanding, show them how to mix mud, to carry up 4x8 flooring sheets, bring up 2x4s, 2x6s, 2x8s, 2x10s. And while I was handing these people the building material, and while I was helping, I was looking, I was watching, I was looking at the technique, learn. Every once in a while, I would ask a question, only when I saw that the coast was clear, because they had a job to do, and I didn't want to disturb them from their job, nor did I want to hinder them, because they're there to make money. I'm there to learn. And I would go back a couple of days in a row, and I do this as much as I can, and I would get the experience. And then I'd come back and implement what I learned, and I made a lot of mistakes. But as the years went by, the mistakes are minimal. So I started learning how by applying myself, doing the job. So I bought the building material. I read the books. I went out and learned some experience, and got experience by making mistakes here. I often show people the first deck that I built. It's still standing. 16-something years later, it's still standing. But boy, if you see that thing, the deck it can't be no more than 4x8. And the thing is 6 inches out of square. Now I do a deck. If I get a deck that's a half inch out of square, I'm highly upset. Now I try to do everything I can to make sure I can try to figure out what's going on. Excuse me. Because that's where my level of experience has attained to. So I didn't bawl, I didn't squall when there was an obstacle in front of me. I didn't look at it and say, oh, this is Goliath. It's too big. I can't accomplish it. It's just way too much for me. I didn't do all that. I made myself available. I went through the pain. My wife thought I was stark raving mad, just nuts and crazy. You can't build no home. You ain't never built one. And I agreed with her. Well, needless to say, that my wife no longer questions me anymore about anything that I say that I'm going to do. Because if I put it up here and I do it, I'm going to do it. I get it done. Well, the father over the years sent a couple of faithful brothers, Elder Doug and a few other brothers and stuff that helped assist in the work that I'm doing, because, after all, I live on community. We've built every building out here. The homes, the tabernacle, the guest houses, the dining hall. We're still adding on to the dining hall. As a matter of fact, over the last couple of years, I have spent an extraordinary amount of money in this dining facility, and I think I'm just about done. The home that I'm doing this video tape in right now, I think this thing is probably about, mind you, I did make the sacrifice to live in what you would call today deplorable conditions. In other words, I had to make a sacrifice. I lived in a trailer for 9 years without running water, and it had a big old hole in the back. And I put plastic on it, 6 mil, 4 mil plastic to cover it up and double it up. Trying to keep something here. And I actually found a wood stove for heat because I didn't have enough money to pay for a heating bill, if you understand what I mean. And then in the summertime, we didn't have air conditions. But I would use fans because it would cost too much to run ACs. And so my wife, she made the sacrifice along with my children. And we lived in what you would call in modern day times deplorable conditions. Now, but think about this. Because of the choices and the decisions I made, not only now am I able to benefit from what I've actually done, but I've got other people out here that can't even build a wall that is benefiting from the labors of myself and the brethren out here. And that's just the way that I personally think it should be, you know what I mean? Providing everybody's doing their job. But this is definitely not for someone who is complacent, someone who is easily defeated, someone who wants to argue and stuff. But anyway, I live in, I guess this thing about 1,900, 2,200 square feet. I didn't do it. It's been a long time. But the home that I live in now, it is paid for. Paid for. And this building, it wasn't a home at first. I had used it as a community area. Then I later moved into it because it's at the front of the land. But you think about this. At 30-something years old, I had this building complete. Early 30s, like 32, I think, 31, 32. This building, a dining hall, and a church building. And the average of them all was 30 by 60. That's 1,800 square feet just in alone. Had them all complete with the help of the brother. And every single one of them were paid for, bought and paid for. And we didn't get a bank loan. We didn't go and do it the traditional way. As a matter of fact, we thought outside of the box. And so then I moved in a little bit later. But you think about this. I have a home right here. And if you just go ahead and do the math, 30-something years old. And of course, you listen to a lot of these people out here, they would tell you, Pastor Dow is a cult leader. He's dumb. He's all that. I would agree with all those because I'm ignorant in a lot of things. And I agree with the cult thing because, Christianity is the largest cult in the world, and their definition of a cult is any religious organization. So if people choose to do that, they can choose to do that. But we call ourselves Hebrews and we're Israelites. But if people want to call us outside of what we say we are, that's just like somebody calling you by another name. We can either choose to accept that or reject it. So on their mission, I accept their mission. But as far as us ourselves, I reject it. So if you come to me calling me all these disparaging, hurtful comments and stuff, you may not like what I say back to you. You understand that? All right. So anyway, but 30-something years old, I got a home that anybody would love to live in. Love to live in. And a few other homes out here. Bought and paid for every one of them. But somebody would love to live in this home right here. Because there's no mortgage. The only thing I have to pay for every single year is a few $100s in taxes. Well, since then, we have window units for air conditioning because I don't see no need to go out and paying somebody, $8,000 to $10,000 for central heating and air. And then have them to come back and turn a screw and charge you $600 for a service call. I'm just a thinking man. I learned how to build computers because at the time it was too expensive to buy the things. Well, I guess what I'm saying in a nutshell is make yourself available. Think outside the box. Now, I'm giving you a blueprint of what to do. The problem is are you willing to do it? Or are you some sorry excuse-making thing with a welfare mentality to where you make excuses and you depend on everybody to do everything for you? Well, now I'm in a position, myself and the elders and Brother James, where around here that we are in a position to help get people to understand it. There are people that are affiliated with us. There are brothers and sisters that are in the process of buying land. And actually, since we have the building experience and we have a lot of young teenagers around here that is learning it, what better experience can they have in life and investing in themselves? And what better fulfillment is there, besides, having a relationship with the Father, than to be able to go and help another true Israelite? I'm not talking about people who, with words, they deceive you, they make you think that they are this great, lawful Israelite who is obeying biblical principles and they love the brethren and all this other stuff. And as soon as things don't go their way, the real true nature comes out in them. Satan comes out in them. I'm talking about people who you have confirmed through testing and trial that they're there with you. Well, what better way to do this than, the people that are out purchasing on land, and then we can get a building crew together and actually go out there and build a building and don't have to go to the world for anything. Nothing whatsoever. I think that's pretty smart. I know one thing. People will not have to, if they follow my advice and my principles, my teachings, my learning, they will not have to have a mortgage, be saddled with debt. But I think the biggest obstacle when I really truly look at all this home building thing is that men are lazy because you have to do it yourself. Because there's many nights, many days, for years that I woke up at 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning and did not come home until 9, 10 o'clock at night. Did this on a daily basis. And most people just simply men, so-called men today, they're too fat, they're too lazy, they're too lethargic, they're too complacent to get it done. Because, after all, you go out there and you work, you pay Federal Reserve, know somebody else do it, and this is the attitude that they have actually placed inside of the people today. It's a sad condition, sad state of affairs. It really, truly is. I even have guest homes up here that we build and stuff for people when they come to stay. When they're visiting us, they can actually stay in our nice little guest homes. And the reason why I built a couple of guest homes for that? So that they don't have to go down here and pay $70, $80, $90, $100 a night to sleep in a hotel room. People choose to. Rather than doing that by showing their appreciation, they can just leave an offering here. We don't tell people how much to leave, but if you're going to go out there and pay that world, at least here you're going to get good food, good fellowship, a nice peaceful state of rest. Like I said, I just think differently. Well, I got all this, everything that I'm talking about, every bit of it, my ideas and my thoughts, all of it come from reading the Bible, especially the book of Acts. Israel has always been separate from other nations, even when they were in captivity. I heard the words that Jesus said, come out. The apostles always echoed it, come out from among them. They gave us a blueprint, sell that you have. But most people can't do this because they're too Roman in mindset. And they have so many doubts and fears and unbelief. And of course, the biggest fear is where everybody ain't going to do things my way. That's the biggest problem. And no, everybody ain't going to do things your way. So go ahead and have it your way. But I just couldn't fathom it. One day employment is going to stop. It really truly is. Because remember, when you read this Bible right here, the people was fitting for a life every single day. Food for their belly. They didn't have employment back then. And it was, so as it was in the beginning, it's going to end that way. And you need to get to the point to where you can actually learn how to live and be content. Because we are faced with a world without rule of law. But anyway, I had a lot of digressions in this message right here, a lot of things. I hope I said something, but the real deal is the reason why men, and most of them will be envy against what I say. They'll come here and they'll be envious because they didn't do it themselves. Because again, I say in my 20s, late 20s, mid 20s, somewhere along in there, and in my 30s, and ever since then, I've been dedicating my whole life to doing this, building this. And I had a lot of help with the brethren, which I greatly appreciate. I think this is wise. And here's one thing. I do not have to experience sorrow at the beginning of every month when I have to go, when many of you have to go down and pay anywhere between $800 and $2,000, sometimes $3,000 a month just to live. I learned it all from the book of Acts. And you've got all these preachers and teachers out there, this prosperity stuff, and boy, they got planes and boats and trains and big nice mansions and stuff, and you look at them and think that that's the way to obtain it. But godliness with contentment is great gain, and most people can't be content with such things they have because the lust of the eyes is deceiving. The pride of life really truly deceive, and most people are trying to equate righteousness based on what they see of others. They're trying to equate prosperity based on what they see what other people have and stuff, when the truth is the greatest of all the prosperity is that your health is in check, and that you learn how to walk in love, and you change your mind so you can be peace and can have peace and full of contentment. Because one thing I learned is having a lot of stuff only means that you have to actually build up a lot of fences and walls and defenses in order to keep it from those who want to obtain from your labors. But the bottom line is, the reason why men don't do this today, because they can't argue. Well, I want to see somebody who's going to argue against this advice right here. They can't argue with it. And of course, my next big project over the next few years is I'm going to be heavily working in the solar because I want to get off this electric grid. I mean, after all, I've worked long enough, and now it's time for me to educate. I even got a few books of solar up here that I'm now educating myself on how to do solar systems. And the reason being, because now that I've getting close to the point where we need to be at, I don't want to be dependent upon this system. I don't want to be dependent upon this system. I don't want to be dependent upon it in any way, shape, fashion, or form. And so if I have to use solar to be able to do it and to have energy independence, so be it. There are a few things we have to use, no gasoline, stuff like that. But as we advance, I'm not trying to get comfortable in his life to continue to keep doing things the way the Gentiles do it. No, I'm trying to make sure I get wiser and wiser. And so pretty soon I'm going to be energy independent. Now it's going to take some time to do it, but I am working towards energy independence. But I can tell you right now that if men do not have the enthusiasm, the decisiveness, the initiative, if they do not have the courage, the dependability, the loyalty, the unselfishness, and a heart full of justice, you women in trouble, because they ain't going to do it. They're not going to do it. And most of us not willing to suffer now in order to live and enjoy the comforts of life later. Most of us not willing to do that. We're not going to do it. So because you refuse to make the sacrifice, most of you will continue to stay in bondage and will never, ever, ever enjoy the fruit of your labors. But if you can get these men to stop being so lazy, so slothful, so always making excuses, stop them from being wasters. Most of them, you can't tell them to get a savings account, because as soon as that mind knows where money is and they can get their little grubby hands on it, most of you going to stay in the poorhouse and stay a servant to the lender, because people have no self-control whatsoever at all. But hey, I hope I said something to encourage a lot of people's hearts and minds, but you really got to get these men to stop being so damn lazy and making all these excuses if you want to see something from the fruit of your labors. Y'all be encouraged, but this is just the foundation and the blueprint of what it takes to actually build a home.